A very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to LiveTalk, Women's Roundtable, where we speak about issues affecting women. We're coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington this Thursday, December the 15th, 2022. I'm your host, Marvelous Mhlanga Nyahuye. And tonight on the Women's Roundtable, we're taking a look at the U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C., which ends this evening. More than 40 African presidents and delegates from civil society groups, businesses, and other sectors are attending the summit at the invitation of President Joe Biden. The American president said he supports moves to make the African Union a permanent member of the G20. He also told delegates yesterday that American companies, the government, and other stakeholders are keen to invest billions of dollars in Africa for various projects and programs, including the upliftment of women, digital technology, water and sanitation, amongst others. Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is under targeted sanctions, was represented by Foreign Affairs Minister Frederick Shava. Nasi trikutarisa nyaya yemusangano we-US Africa Leadership Summit uyo urikuit wasvika kumagumo nasi mu-Washington, D.C. Mutungamiri weAmerica vaJoe Biden nezuro vakazivisa kuti hurumende yavo ichange ichiwedzera mari yavari kupa Africa nemari inosvika 15 million pamusoro peimwe mari yakataurwa musangano uyu usati watanga inosvika 55 million. VaBiden vakatiwo America yakanyorerana neAfrica chibvumirano chekutengeserana pakati peAmerica neAfrican Continental Free Trade Area nezvimwe zvibvumirano zvinosimudzira upfumi. Vakatiwo nyika yavo yaisa parutivi mari inosvika mamiliyoni 350 kana kuti 350 million yekusimudzira umhizha neumhetura pakufambiswa kwemashoko kana kuti digital transformation with Africa. Some African leaders are in Washington for the high-profile meetings with President Joe Biden at a time their counterparts did not make the cut due to restrictive measures imposed by Washington for allegedly violating human rights and failing to conduct free, fair, and credible elections. In some African states, the U.S. imposed targeted sanctions on suspected terrorists and terror groups operating on the continent and beyond. Evans Zeninga reports. We are now going to the promo where we are going to be we are going to now have a package from Evans Zeninga.
Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa is among the few African leaders not attending the USA-Africa Leaders Summit because of targeted sanctions imposed by Washington for alleged human rights abuses by his regime. Foreign Affairs Minister Ambassador Frederick Shava is representing Zimbabwe, which is featuring for the first time at the summit. Mr. Mnangagwa calls the sanctions imposed on him and his inner circle illegal.
As my government continues to entrench democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, we are committed to vibrant, competitive, and peaceful political contestations. Notwithstanding our success, the ongoing deleterious effects of the illegal sanctions continue to hamper and slow down our progress and the realization of sustainable and inclusive development. Zimbabwe is a peace-loving country.
Over the past few years, Zimbabwean government has campaigned against the targeted sanctions, claiming that they were hurting the country's economy. Harare has managed to secure support from several African leaders, including President Mokgweetsi Masisi of Botswana.
While we are confident of the resilience and resolve of Zimbabwe, as well as its economic transformation prospects, We are concerned that such measures are not advancing the cause of livelihoods of innocent Zimbabweans.
Jeff Flake, former Arizona senator who lived in Zimbabwe for many years, said he drafted a piece of legislation for the imposition of the restrictive measures following allegations of human rights abuses and election rigging.
I've long wished to see Zimbabwe prosper in a manner that its people deserve. What happened in the country since I lived there in 1983 is nothing short of a tragedy. That's why I, along with Senator Coons, introduced the Zimbabwe Democracy and Recovery Amendment Act, and the bill reinforces the markers that the new government needs to meet in order to forge a better bilateral relationship with the United States.
Apart from Zimbabwe, Washington has also begged restrictive measures imposed on some individuals by the Economic Community of West African States following a series of coups in Mali. Mustafa Diaby, a geopolitical analyst, explains.
Because African governments are already saying that they will not accept anybody to dictate them anymore what they want to do. So U.S. is very careful by going to the sanction against Mali, because if you want to make somebody approach you, you don't want to be punitive against that, community. So U.S. is not truly going to the sanction, but they are observing what, ECOWAS is proposing as a sanction against Mali.
Some individuals are also on targeted sanctions in the Democratic Republic of Congo following political instability in the country, which has vast natural resources. Some of them are M23 rebels. Ental Alimasi, an international development professional and published researcher, says some individuals in the DRC are facing restrictive measures, even though it appears as if the sanctions are not being enforced by the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control.
What they did here, they specified that the Secretary of State, if he determined that individuals, either in the government or in the, foreign countries, were harming the security of the DRC, or were harming the what we call the UN security forces, or where it is recruiting or utilizing child soldiers, etc., could at that particular point be, under the sanctions of, from the Treasury Department. I know there has been sanctions against, the current head of the M23, who is, Sultani Makenga.
From 2014, America also imposed targeted sanctions on former leaders and militia commanders in the Central African Republic for prolonging instability. For VOA Zimbabwe Service, I am Evans Zinningham in Washington.
Meanwhile, former U.S. ambassador to Zimbabwe, who is also attending the meeting, had this to say.
Hi, this is former ambassador to Zimbabwe, Tom McDonald. I'm a partner at a major Washington law firm, and I served as U.S. ambassador to Zimbabwe in the second Bill Clinton term. And I love Zimbabwe, and it is a place always close to my heart.
So we're here at the U.S. Africa Leadership Summit, and the president of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, was not invited. What's your take?
I agree with that decision. I know President Mnangagwa well from my time in Zimbabwe. He was Speaker of Parliament. He was also the Justice Minister. And frankly, a very important go-between as we would deal with Robert Mugabe, the late Mugabe, and the Zimbabwean government. So I'm very aware of Emmerson Mnangagwa, and I agree with the decision not to invite him.
The Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe, Frederick Shava, was here, and he yesterday told us that he's going to take this matter up with the U.S. government, because he says if they invited the Foreign Minister, they should have invited the President. What's your take?
He can attempt to do that. He can talk to Tony Blinken, our distinguished Secretary of State. He can talk to Jake Sullivan, who I've known for some years, the National Security Advisor. But with all due respect to the Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe, he's wrong. And Zimbabwe is still under U.S. sanctions, which I agree with. And it has a long road to go. And to where it should be in terms of its U.S. bilateral.
We saw the president of the U.S., Joe Biden, today increasing the funding to Africa by $15 billion. How is that going to help Africa from what you saw happening here today?
I think that's great. I commend President Biden, who's terrific. We both love Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I'm pleased that we are making further investments in Africa. I think that will help across the board with small business, with health investments. We did a lot to fight HIV/AIDS when I was ambassador, opening so many clinics. But across the board, that funding will be used by USAID, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and otherwise. And, the Africa Bureau at State continues to be really excellent.
Meanwhile, a businesswoman from Mali who was unable to attend the main summit as her country is under sanctions like Zimbabwe shared her sentiments as to having traveled all the way to Washington, D.C. to attend the summit but was unable to do so. Let's hear what she had to say.
Hello, good morning. My name is Alimata Koulibaly. I'm from Mali, West Africa.
Which meetings are you attending today?
I'm planning to attend the U.S. Africa Leadership Summit meeting today, which is based on the business meeting between the U.S. leaders and African business leaders.
So have you been able to register and to also be able to attend this meeting?
Well, yes, I registered for some of the events, but I'm having some difficulties to enter some of the main meeting, given that Mali has not been involved, and there is a sanction for my country to participate in these meetings. So, but I hope that I will be able to attend the meeting today. We have a project management consulting business where we do other types of management consulting, so with different government entities and the international organization as well. So as a business leader working on the Sustainable Development Goal project, so I hope we will be able to pass this kind of sanction. So business leaders and other organizations that's involved in the development of the development between Africa and other nations, other continents, so we can pass that and also be able to participate fully. Because as a Malian, I came here and I'm also here as an African and a world citizen. So I want to make sure that we tackle the issues that's really involved in the world right now. So we will be able to get the development in many countries in the world, specifically in developing countries such as African countries, and especially my own country and other countries as well. So my message to the U.S. government or any other government that's involved in this is to allow the people, civil society, business leaders, and other stakeholders to take part of this kind of activity, because this is something that's not only involved in one country, so it's a global issue, so we all need to be participating fully.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on all our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We're also live on YouTube on VOA Zimbabwe. We are now joined by our guest, Lucindongwe Chikowero of MTC Educated Girl Foundation, and our VOA reporter, Gibbs Dube, who is at the summit. So I'll start off by turning over to Gibbs Dube, who's at the summit, to just update us on what is happening today. Hello, Gibbs, and welcome.
Hi, hello, Marvelous. So today there's a lot that was taking place this morning, but you know that there were rain. So we started very late here at about 11 a.m., but then we saw some action thereafter. You know, President Joseph Biden delivered, his kind of talk today with the African leaders. So he was focusing mainly on partnering, with Africa, on this agenda 2063. So we see that according to Joe Biden, this is worth supporting because Africa seems to be having a lot of focus. He also focused on good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. So he said these are very important issues in Africa, and at the same time, he said peace and security plays a key role in the development of the continent. So meaning that, yes. So there's a lot that is taking place.
If you can just go into Ndebele for us to just give us a breakdown of what was happening there or is continuing to happen, because this event it stopped tonight.
Yeah, unjalo ke ngokuthi kwakho Marvelous. Siyabona ukuthi namhlanje kulo mongameli Joseph Biden osanda kwethula umbiko wakhe ekhuluma ukuthi kungancedwa njani izwekazi le-Africa nge-agenda 2063. So uthi ke hayi kukhanya ngazani kungaba loncedo longaba khona. Uphinde futhi wakhuluma la nge-G20 esithi ke i-African Union kumele ingene ibe permanent member ye-G20. So uthi lokhu kunganceda kakhulu njalo lokuthi ke kumele kube labohulumende abakhululekileyo, kube le-democracy, i-respect for human rights, lezinto ezinjalo, rule of law, nokunye okunjalo ke. So kodwa ke so kusiya ngesikhathi uyagqitshwa namhlanje umhlangano lo kuzayenziwa ke kuthiwa i-press conference kungakagqitshwa umhlangano lo Marvelous.
Please stay on the line, Gibbs. Let me turn now to Lucindongwe Chikowero. Tokuchingamidza ipachirongwa.
Tinotenda sesimaze makadi zvenyu.
Aiwa tiri wadi muri kunzwa zviri kubuda kuno kuWashington DC kumusangano wevatungamiri vekuAfrica vakakokwa navaJoe Biden. Tiri kunzwa America iri kuti ichange iri kuendesa mari yakawanda chaizvo kuAfrica, asi takaona kuti mutungamiri weZimbabwe vaEmerson Mnangagwa havana kuda kudevedzwa asi vanga vakamirirwa navaFrederick Shava. Imi munoona zvichizofamba sei?
Ini sekuona kwangu nofunga dambudziko rakazosangana navaMnangagwa ndiroro ramasanctions ranga richambotaurwa, asi sekutaura kunowanzoita United States inoti Zimbabwe senyika haisi pasi pezvirango, so asi ma-individuals ane ma-targeted sanctions. Saka ndinovimba investment iyi iri kutaurwa navaBiden almost 70 billion yavarida kuendesa kuAfrica ichazenge ichibatsirawo kana kubenefita vanhu vemuZimbabwe zvakare.
Pane zvirongwa here takanyanyotarira kumadzimai zvamungatimi zvingada kuwanikwawo zvichiwana donhwe remari ichange ichibva kuAmerica?
Sekunzwa kwendaita mari iyi zviri kunzi Africa economic transformation depends on improved infrastructure. Takatarisa nyaya dzeinfrastructure, tikutarisa nyaya dzekuagriculture, transport, access to renewable energy, magesi anga achinetsa vanhu vachitadza kuona bhora, zvakare high internet access, zvakawanikwa zvichidzosera vanhu zvikuru sei vari kumaruwa kumashure munguva yeCovid yatakabuda mahiri, vana vachitadza kuita access to education nekuti kwanga kusina internet. Saka zvinhu zvose izvi mari iyi ikananga chaizvo muhomwe kana kuti mune zvinhu zvakatarisirwa zvinenge zvichibenefitawo zvakare nemadzimai.
Please stay on the line. I'll go back to Gibbs. Gibbs, we saw that the Zimbabwe delegation is there today. Did you have the opportunity to meet up with them, or what's the situation?
No, right now they are in a meeting with some U.S. officials. I think they are discussing many issues there. I think one of the issues is about maybe Zimbabwe benefiting from this summit. But let me say that yesterday, too, we saw Mr. Frederick Shaba going to the White House where there was dinner. So this is the first time to see a high-powered delegation of Zimbabwean officials going to the White House, at the invitation of the President of America. And then at the same time, we had Strive Masiwa, who was at the State Department dinner, where he really canvassed for support, in Africa, especially in terms of digital technology and other things. So there was a lot that Zimbabweans were doing here. There are some who are in the NGO sector who are also, lining themselves so that they can get some kind of funding from the U.S. government, from other organizations and so forth. We're not quite sure whether Zimbabwe is going to benefit from some of these deals that Biden was talking about. So President Biden talked about billions and billions of dollars that can, trickle to Africa, but it's not yet clear whether that money will also be sent to Zimbabwe, or let me say, received by Zimbabwean officials. Mm-hmm. We know that that doesn't happen. All the money from USA goes via NGOs.
Yes, if you can just take us through that same analysis in Ndebele. What's your view on how Zimbabwe is going to benefit from this summit?
Yes, Kulumanje is Patamanda Zimbabwe. Kanyage, the Lomshangano, Lava America Konapa, Kanaga Kuliswana, Molazani, Malotaba, Lezi, Cheso, the Noto, is a Fagulava Zanpiev, Tubaza Kulmako, Kota Slakin Solako, Utuga Poman. Ngasa sangela konokuke uthi umongameli Joseph Biden uthembisene simzweke sikhuluma sithi hayi kulamakhuba emali sibilala ukuthi atholwe ilizwekazi leAfrica amazwe atshiyeneyo usayine izivumelwano leBotswana eNamibia lamanye yokuhambelana ezempilakahle ukuhambelana lamanzi lokunye okutshiyeneyo mavela. So xa sikhangela akunaqiniso sokuthi kungabe kuzaphumana, kodwa simzwileke lo African Union Chairperson umekhisole sithi hayi phela amazwe wonke kumele ancedwe lapha ngelemelika. Njalo-ke lo-African Union Commission Chairperson uMusa Muhammad la ukhulume ngokufanayo esithi hayi kumele phela konke amazwe ancedwe. Singazi-ke ukuthi iziphathamandla zeZimbabwe ziyobuyela ekhaya ziphetheni mavela.
Ya rekaitende kuna amai Lusindongwe Chikowero takaona sekutaura kwaita Gibbs nezuro vaFrederick Shava vachitambirwa kumuzinda weWhite House ivo uko vakange vakakokwa kwanga kuine yatingati dopiro ikoko. Munoona zvichibatsira here paukama hweZimbabwe neAmerica?
Ndinoona kunge zvinobatsira zvakanyanya nekuti tikada kutarisa mushure umo mazuva etakawirwa nedambudziko recyclone Idai, United States yakawanikwa ichiisa ruoko rwayo mukubatsirana nevanhu veZimbabwe. And zvikuru zvakare tinoona makurukota eUnited States ari kuZimbabwe vachiramba vachitaura kuti vane ukama nevanhu veZimbabwe, vane dambudziko nenyaya dzematongerwo enyika kana kuti human rights abuses. So saka ndinoona kunge zvinobatsira zvakanyanya uye looking at the bigger picture vanhu veZimbabwe vachazenge vachibatsirika vachazenge vachiwanawo urubvu. Asi kana ikange yauya dambudziko redu rimwe ranyanya ndiroro nyaya dzeuori. Saka tine tichishuvira kuti dai dzichinge dzazouya mari idzodzo dzinosvika kuma-intended beneficiaries pane kuti zvizongopera mukubvarurwa nevanenge vaine maoko makuru uye marefu anenge ari vari kumusoro.
If I may just go into English with you, Lucy Ndongwe Chikowero, you are saying that you are concerned that there should be some measures as to how some of these funds will be dispersed. Give us your take on the issue of corruption and things like that.
Yes, our main problem as Zimbabwe is that we have so many corrupt people and there's less accountability. And we'll find that some of these monies that are being pledged on these high platforms or end up not reaching the intended beneficiaries. For example, I can give specifically about the area of the Chimanimani area, where we found a lot of money being donated, even by the U.S. government when we had that problem of Cyclone Idai. A lot of people up to today, they are still mourning that they never saw that help that was being pledged. But we also saw that the president went to the area and announced the pledges that were coming from other governments coming into the area to help the people on the ground. So my hope is that with this 70 billion that is being pledged to Africa, when it reaches Zimbabwe, it should reach the intended beneficiaries, not just disappearing into thin air when it just lands into our country, into our country coffers.
Thank you so much there, Lucy. Let me go back to Gibbs Dube. Gibbs, we saw on the sidelines of the actual summit, there were people that were protesting. Are there still protesters out there with the rain and the cold today?
Yes, I saw so many umbrellas today, people, under those umbrellas, and yet it was raining so much, And they were protesting. They are still saying Prime Minister Abiy is doing a lot of, killings in Ethiopia. So they are out there, they are protesting, they are very angry, and they're saying he was not supposed to attend this meeting after all. So, but there are some people who are actually saying, no, he was supposed to attend since he is one of the African leaders and is not under direct sanctions from the U.S. government.
If you can give us that in Ndebele, please, Gibbs.
Yes, he wanted to have to Ethiopia, but Chancellor Panja, Columba, so abantu laba ke bengachaito kangako kodwa ke bethula umbrella njengoba kusina izulu elingani lomkando so bevele bethinga okunye okumangalisayo singathi ke nxa abakhulumayo bathi bebejikiza upoison besiphisa ukuthi sibili bambambe uAbey umkhokheli wezwe leEthiopia sekwazi ukwenzakala khona ngale Tigray ungazani kule bathi ngokutsho kwabo bathi ngani kule genocide bathi ngani sibula abantu baphonga ubulawa mahlayana so ke kodwa kulabanye bathi hayi kodwa kumede ngawubuyile kula ngapho njengoba ke engomunye inkokheli ezwekazi eAfrica njalo kakho phansi kwezitezo zenotho ezetheswa abantu abanjenga bakwele Zimbabwe so kukhona sibili ukutshengisela ukuthize kulamanye amazwe anganakhona nesithi akumelanga inkokheli yabo ibuye endaweni nje okumangalisayo nje ukuthi akola abantu beZimbabwe kade betshengisela khona lapha bajalo ukwenza into ezinjalo betshengisela besenza ukuthi bathi bafuna ukubona iziphathamandla zeZimbabwe.
Thank you so much. I will go back to Lucy and Ndongwe Chikoere. We also saw there was a youth forum that was running alongside the main U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, and we saw during some of these meetings some of the high-profile people, that were moderating and, talking about the importance of the youth in tomorrow's America, in tomorrow's Africa. What's your take?
Yeah, with that, I'm actually very, very impressed. And my issue is that we find that the youth, especially from Africa, that will be coming. We are leaving behind the vital youth that are living in rural communities. Those are underrepresented at national level, regional level, and international level. So I really wish, because some of the wishes of these girls in rural communities where we operate as MTC, they are missing, their views are missing from the table. People are speaking on their behalf. So I really wish they could bring those, because their wishes are slightly different from those from the cities, although it is all about economic empowerment. But how to get there differs from where people are coming from geographically.
Thank you so much. We were hearing there from Lucy Ndongwe Chikoere of MTC Educator Go, and also our stringer or reporter on the ground, Gibbs Dube, was actually at the summit. This brings us to the end of our show. Would like to thank you and our guests. I'm Marvelous Mhlanga Nyahuye here in Washington, D.C., saying have a very good evening.